I have a very hard time being judgmental about coaches because you're not in the room. And
Absolutely.
I can guarantee you every NBA coach has things they'd like to do and say, I can't do that because we're not capable, or player X can't do it, or player X won't do it, right? So the media's like, why don't they blitz? They've thought about that.
I promise you, they ran every scenario.
They're spending
20 hours a day thinking about this.
Literally thought about the whole thing.
You.
To be like welcome. Like
start with a song.
Yeah, start with a song.
Okay. Let's start with the song. What are we thinking? Good morning, everyone. We got a good one today. We got Tommy Alter, per usual, and the great Steve Nash. Going to be an exciting conversation. Had a great dinner yesterday. Covered a lot of topics. So looking forward to
Where are we right now?
We're in Scottsdale, Arizona. Beautiful, sunny Scottsdale, Arizona.
Where specifically are we in Scottsdale,
We're at my
Arizona?
house in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Live from the
Live
new
from the
house in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Live from the house that is nowhere close to being completed, but we're here.
Not to put you on blast, but so nice and new that there's still tags on the pillows.
Well, because we're not sure if those pillows are going to stick.
Smart man.
So until everything is set, anything can go. Anything can get cut.
How does this, what year is this for you in the league?
NBA?
Yeah.
I just finished 6.
How does this compare to your year 6?
Year 6. Year 6, I was in like a townhouse in Dallas. Great. I liked it, but definitely not palatial like this.
Yeah.
This joint, definitely
palatial.
I also feel like we were talking about this. We were talking about this last night, and you may have like talked about this publicly before. I never knew about the skateboarding thing in New York. I feel like your happiness, your level of happiness, you're not a person who needs a lot of bells and whistles.
Can you just give a second and go over the skateboarding thing that we're referring to here? Because this deserves to be talked about.
People probably knew, but as time has passed. But when I played for the Suns, I would live in New York City in the summer, played on a couple soccer teams, and like my daily shooting routine, shooters got to shoot. You always have to shoot every day, or else you're like, I don't know if you're the same way, but I'm like anxious if I haven't made my shot. So in the summer, I would skate from my apartment in Tribeca to Battery Park at like 7 in the morning and like make 150 shots, hitting my own rebounds. Take me like 30 minutes. Then all the commuters would be getting off the ferry from Jersey City. And I'd be like, all right, time to go. Then I'd go back, take my kids to camp, whatever. And then I would skate up to Chelsea Piers up the West Side Highway, which was like 1.5 miles, 2 miles, and go hoop up there, lift, and then skate back home. Sometimes take my board on the subway.
It's just what's really funny imagining this, us being in New York now and you being just, recently removed from New York, is everybody with phones, everyone is now kind of on the lookout for things like this. So it doesn't mean that you're going to get, mobbed everywhere you go, but it feels like one of those things, if you were doing that in 2024, 2025, it would get written about, or
there'd be videos that go viral.
No, I mean, it's just a different world, right? Yeah. Like you can't do anything nowadays without it being documented. And that you guys live in a slightly different environment than we did in a number of ways, mostly because of the internet, technology. Like it's just different. We got, I guess, I don't know, I feel like late aughts was like social media, like as far as like when Twitter came around, Facebook was starting to become a thing, started on college campuses. Like then obviously it's exploded, but I didn't have to deal with that or camera phones like for the vast majority of my career. So, I mean, you guys live in a complete, and fortunately or unfortunately, but fortunately for you guys, you grew up with that too. So like you kind of get it. Not saying it's good, bad, or it's just, it's different, and you have to deal with a lot more variables because of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could have a whole hour on how technology and social media and camera phones has changed the way an athlete has to operate.
I've heard a lot of stories.
How has it affected you?
I mean, it's all I've known, right? It's all I've known in my time playing. But it's like you always have to be aware of your surroundings, probably to an extra extent, because it could be people that you're not interacting with that are recording or doing whatever, or it's just like anywhere you go, anything you do can be a spectacle. But like we talked about last night, it's also you know, sometimes it's pretty easy, depending on where you are, to slip under the radar at the same time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, especially in a place like New York City where a lot of people have a lot of things going on and there's a lot of everybody, like we can move around and not really worry. Like you can roll solo and not really worry too much about too many things. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
But also like you can slip in and out and do all that stuff, but you have to be always have some level of awareness.
Exactly.
Whereas
Always.
we really didn't. Like you might be aware of like, oh, I'm going into a crowd here that might be pretty basketball centric, or, you know, when you're like trying to get somewhere and you kind of notice people are like, you might be clocking you a little bit and you're like, I don't know if I have time for this and that kind of thing. So you had that kind of awareness, but you guys have to be aware at all times of like someone could be filming, recording
From afar.
from anywhere.
Yeah.
That never leaves.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it could not come out right away.
Mhm.
But you know, it's always
That's kind of scary when you think about it, right? It's like
Yeah.
everything is always watched.
we're taping this Wednesday morning. We're gonna, you know, talk about a bunch of the playoff series, but I had sort of a question about the social media in the current league now in terms of instant reaction
Yeah.
and how you feel basically. And I'm kind of curious your perspective with like social media versus the media when you were in playoff series and you'd have bad game or the team would have you guys would get blown out or something like that. And you get criticism. I mean, that's part of the job, but it does feel like, I mean, we watched the Lakers Minnesota game last night. It felt like after game one, it was like everyone's burying the Lakers. Everyone's burying the Knicks right now. It feels like there's a thing where after every loss it is. And so I'm just curious if you guys think it's different or this is just how it's always been and just kind of put your head down and ignore everything because it's all noise.
I mean, you're in a different era, but I feel like I crossed over just a little bit. It wasn't quite as, you know, ubiquitous when I played, like the social stuff, but at the end it was there. The media became, I think early in my career, became win or nothing. Like if you don't win, you're trash, right? It became this kind of like, if you don't win a championship or bust type scenario. So there was always kind of that pressure there, that reaction. Obviously it became more like in the newspaper, on Sports Center, then like online newspapers and then social media. But I always took the tact of like, I'm not paying attention to especially if we didn't play well, have a good game. Why would I take on that negative energy when I'm trying to focus and have another game? Now, I do think there's value in people being aware of what their personality is. Like some people probably get fuel from the negative stuff. Some people it's just, for me, it was just like a waste of like emotion I did not need to give to that. I wanted to save that emotion for my prep, my performance, my recovery.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a horrible thing. I think instant reactions are like those gut emotional reactions that a lot of people are going to be quick to consume. So it's like you watch New York versus Detroit the other day, and then you get all these instant reactions, and that's when people are like wanting to see these instant reactions. So I think it increases the volume of media and the consumption of the game, which I think is a positive. Mm-hmm. We want that. I think from a player's perspective, it's like just ignore it for the most part. And if you're a guy that finds fuel from it, like you said, then by all means, like look at what you want to look at. But for the most part, like you just kind of have to compartmentalize and be like, this event is going to occur. There's going to be media and it's going to swing high and it's going to swing low. But like your job is to stay very centered in those moments and like kind of remain like, what's the real here? What actually went on in the game? Like, who cares what they have to say? Let's watch film. Let's go over this. Let's evaluate that performance in our own right and then be clear-headed in that way.
Mm-hmm. Great point. I mean, we talk about this a lot, but like the playoffs, never too high, never too low. Like the overreaction, there's also shreds of truth in that from an emotional standpoint in a team. And if you haven't played a lot of playoff games, you're a young player, you haven't maybe learned those lessons or had a few scars, you can ride this emotional roller coaster, which doesn't help you, right? It's also like human nature. You play well and you win, you feel like you're never going to lose.
What's the most emotional playoff series you've been a part of?
That's a great question. I'm so old now, I forgot them all. But, there's definitely been some. We were down 3-1 to the Lakers, came back and won in 7 at home. That was, tough because we were behind the 8 ball. Roger Bell got suspended when he clotheslined Kobe. So we went to LA, I want to say for game 6, down 3-2 without Raja. a starter, and also primary defender on Kobe. And we got the win, came back for game 7 and won. That took a toll. Also, when I played in Dallas, we went up 3-0 on the Blazers and went to game 7. Almost the first team ever to lose with a 3-0 lead. Kind of like just lost focus, took our foot off the gas. They adjusted, played better, went home and won in the 7th game. Those are emotional. But then I think also just playing the Spurs, just such a great team. Timmy was just like such a rock for them. They didn't beat themselves. Pop, an amazing coach. Obviously, Manu and Tony and other incredible role players. Those were emotionally draining series because like they're not going to beat themselves. So you have to like match them at all moments or you're going to lose, like that kind of mental, emotional, ability to stay with it every possession, quarter after quarter, game after game, home and away. Like they made you like push your focus to the limit or else they're going to find separation.
Yeah. And there's like a stamina to that, I feel. There's
bandwidth, right? Like you're like, again, the human element is always so fascinating to me because like, no matter how physically tough you are, like there's a resilience component to this that shows itself in so many ways. Like we want toughness, we want physicality, but the real toughness is mental toughness, right? Like to be able to stick with the game plan, the script, the ebbs and flows of the game, the adjustments, the read and reacting, the being greedy in big moments, like, being efficient, cutting all the extra fat in a performance, so to speak. Like there's no time for that against elite teams.
Yeah.
You can't like feel high and mighty and things are going to come easy now that we're on a roll. Things flip quickly. And then you needed that baggage that you left on the table. So I think that's a really important part about the playoffs is like the mental toughness, resilience to continue to push, to not feel too high, to not get too down, to just be steady in the moment, competing at all times. And I mean, it's kind of obvious to say, but like in practicality, that is a huge challenge. I'm sure you've seen it in your finals run. Like you recognize how close moments can be to flipping a game and then therefore a series.
Yeah, exactly. Like in that final series, you're up 2-0 and when you get removed from it, it's like you guys just lost 4 in a row, right? Like we lost 4 games in a row. But when you go and watch those games over again and you see how just critical moments, how close the games were the whole game, how much those last 2 minutes mattered. It's like you're all like being right there in the playoffs is not good enough.
That's right.
It's just not. Like it takes an extra bump. And in that series, you had Chris Middleton, you had Giannis, you had Drew. They provided that extra bump 4 times in a row, which is incredibly impressive. Like I watched those games over again and you're just like, they worked for that. It was not given to them. Right. They worked for that. But that's what I love about the playoffs overall is that your goal is to beat the same team 4 times in a row, and both teams are 150% focused on each other. And when you start to like see that chess match that's getting played, and then you have these immediate emotional reactions to a game 1, to a game 2, but how many series have flipped after 3? How many series have been 3-1 flipped, and just the momentum of it all? 2-0s that have been flipped. We see it time and time again, and it's like you can't win the series in one game. You can't win the series in one homestand, It's like the series doesn't start until somebody wins on the road. And it's just, in my experience, and it's limited, obviously, but like, that is what makes like being an NBA player, like that's peak of like basketball. Just that's where you want to be.
For sure.
I thought on the most recent Mind the Game, the quote you had was on the playoffs, once you've died 1,000 deaths, what's one more? It's a really interesting way to just kind of think about your mental, about you preparing for the reality of what, these series where you are going to lose games. You're going to have downs.
Yeah, I mean, I think you look at the whole picture, right? The playoffs, the immediacy, like we talked about, like the highs and lows, the pressure, the noise, all the chatter back and forth. Like also if series are competitive, it's going to get personal. There's a lot going on, right, in the playoffs. There's You know, like there's obviously you see who blinks first and makes an adjustment. But before the adjustments, a lot of times, like I think like we were chatting at dinner last night, so we didn't really watch that closely. But like I think the Lakers, like they didn't make a big adjustment. They played their game plan better last night. You know, the first game, they're obviously they don't have any, you know, their roster and profile isn't like a lot of quick-footed defenders. They're like a football team. They're big, they're physical. They get back, pack the paint, get in the gaps, take away. Because they're not going to, I mean, nobody can, but they're not going to be able to individually keep Ant in front or keep Shea in front. So they're in the gaps and then they got a flat shoot. Game one, they didn't get out. Game two, you know, there was a diligence. It felt like watching, obviously, the limited kind of fashion we did. So there's like, before the adjustment, there's the, let's play our game better, right? Then it's who blinks, and then there's an adjustment and all those things. So when you're riding kind of that wave, it's a lot going on, right? The inside, outside noise, the mano-a-mano, the team versus team. So for me, I mean, I think I kind of bastardized this or stole it right out of Art of War. But essentially, there's two outcomes. Like there's live or die, right? There's win or lose. Once you've lost 1,000 deaths, like why are we worried about winning or losing? Like put all that away and go for it. You know what I mean? Like go for the win. Don't hedge your bet. Something I wish I knew a little better. Not that I was afraid or didn't show up, but like just get some of the stress, the anxiety off your table and be like, I'm trying to win this game and I don't care what happens. So I don't know if that makes sense, but kind of like if you've already died 1,000 deaths, what's
Absolutely.
more?
I love that. So you have like the unique experience of being the head point guard of the actual team on the court and then the head coach in these playoff series. And so it's like, at what point do you stick to your game plan? At what point does that flip to like, we need to make an adjustment? Mm-hmm. And I know hindsight is always 20/20 in these things, but like there is a responsibility from a player's perspective to like kind of either reinforce that game plan on the court or really effectively play out those adjustments.
Right.
And then the coach has the same responsibility. So in your experience, like how has that played out?
So I think in both as a player and a coach, like, you know, people know this, we've talked about this, I'm sure ad nauseum, but the teams that make the finals are high IQ teams generally. They're often able to make adjustments. Some like teams are just able to read and react. Like you think of Nick Nurse's Raptors, like defensively, like it was chaotic. You know, they were in the gaps, flying, running people off the line, but they were so good at reading. He flew by, ran him off the line. The next guy came, they packed the pin again, got back in the picture with a second effort. Like I'm almost not sure all of it was scripted, right? But they were high IQ. They could read and react. They had toughness, mental resolve, all that stuff. Other teams don't have that profile. They're not a high IQ team. So you're limited in what adjustments you can make, especially against top playoff teams. So I think part of it is the profile of the group. You know, like I'd be very interested to see how many adjustments the Lakers can make, not because of the IQ's not there. They are, I think, a high IQ team, but their profiles are all pretty similar. There's a bunch of kind of power forward type dudes out there that maybe aren't the quickest, but they can be physical. They can switch. They can make it hard to get in the middle. So I think sometimes you have to look at the profile of the group. Like what adjustments are we capable of making and capable of making effectively? The other part of it is we always talk about adjustments, but a lot of adjustments don't work. But just because you make an adjustment doesn't mean it works, right? So I think there's a let's be ourselves better, and then there's sometimes a blink. Okay, we got to change. And what is my team capable of changing? Sometimes that's between games, but sometimes that's in game, right? And some of that's how you've prepared throughout the year. What's your team capable of doing? What have you had success with? Some of that comes down to the profile of the team, right? Their IQ, their interchangeability, their ability to be versatile, essentially physically versatile, guard multiple positions, change schemes, and also, you know, mentally versatile to be able to say like, I understand if we're changing defenses to this, my feet need to be here, not here. There's a big difference in 6, 8, 10 inches sometimes where you rotate, right? Where your feet are, like how you close out, how you low man, can you see both? Like all these factors in how to make adjustments. So as a player and a coach, there's this kind of dichotomy or this, let's say, pendulum between like, we have to be really good at what we do and how many adjustments is our team capable of making effectively and what happens when they don't work. And then the last thing I'll say about it is kind of, you know, at the end of a lot of series, we have a game or two. We try to play our game plan better. Someone blinks, an adjustment could work. The other team adjusts back. All the adjustments have been made, and then it becomes a dogfight. Who wants it more? Who's more physical? Who's not going to take plays off? Who's able to stay focused? Who's able to be efficient? All those things, it comes back to almost like now we're just playing in the park, right? Winner stays on. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like after the adjustments, the blinks, get to our game plan, let's get back to who we are. And now it's just a dogfight.
There's the other element to that adjustment thing that you touched on is like, there is the question of will the adjustment work? But there's also a huge question of like what adjustment to make and to what degree you make it to, which I found in series, like if I remember correctly, there might have been some criticism around adjustments that our Suns team and maybe even the one after I had got traded had made in the playoffs, like as like reactions from the media, where I'm sitting there and like the takes, the media takes to me are like, you weren't in the locker room. Like you don't know what adjustments we made. You don't know what adjustments the coaching staff made. You don't know how well we tried to execute them. It's like there's such a spectrum of what you can change, how you can execute it. That like to me, it's a lot of fun as a player, but I think it gets the media kind of twisted up in knots a lot.
It's a great point. I think I have a very hard time being judgmental about coaches. Because you're not in the room. You're not in the room. And Absolutely. I can guarantee you every NBA coach has things they'd like to do and say, I can't do that because we're not capable, or player X can't do it, or player X won't do it, right? So the media's like, why don't they blitz? They've thought about that.
I promise you, they ran every scenario.
They're spending 20 hours a day thinking about
literally
this.
Thought about the whole thing.
You.
And when they're not doing something, there's usually 99% of the time a really good reason that they have more experience and understanding about than a view from the outside. So like that is a key component here. And that goes back to profile of teams and versatility and functionality, optionality. But like a lot of times, the adjustment game is fun. It's great. And it's nice that the media wants to get involved and weigh in, and even fans. But the reality is if you're not in that room, you really don't know what the process has been and what the possibilities are.
You don't. Absolutely.
The question I was going to ask from the Phoenix experience, but then relevant to the Lakers series right now, is in terms of adjustments when it comes to an opponent like Luka. So with like what Finch is dealing with right now, what you guys had to deal with, where it's like there's only so much you can say and do and strategize and plan. He's still Luka.
And to that point, I had a series against in Brooklyn against Embiid. That's a very similar type of situation. Is like there's so much you can do, and we went full tilt into hitting the entire game, trapping him the entire game. But the result is like Maxi's teeing off 12 wide open threes a game. So it's like the adjustment there becomes, in what scenarios do we blitz? Are we blitzing at the top of the key? Are we getting him only on the elbows, only when he breaks the 3-point line? And so, yeah, that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's what makes Luka, Jokic, LeBron different than almost anyone is their processing skills combined with their physicality. So at the end of the day, all the schemes you can do, and they can bully ball you and see over you if you bring a crowd. So like that's the thing. So with Luka, similar to LeBron in his prime and still in moments now, obviously he's Luka's the focal point of their offense now, and LeBron's been brilliant playing off him. But those guys are difference makers because they can pick you apart. They can spray the ball over the gym. And when push comes to shove, they can say, I'm quicker than the big dudes, or I can bully anyone, And so you got centers, even Jokic, you don't think of him as quick, but he's a 43% three-point shooter. So if center's flying at him, he makes a quick closeout attack. You're not really staying in front of him. If you do, you're leaning, and now you got his, 275, 300, bumping you, spinning, one more dribble, bumping you as you're trying to recover. He's on the rim. And, you came a little bit early? I'm just waiting for you. You coming? Oh, you're not? I'll be on front of the rim. Oh, you are? Tray ball. So like that's where those guys are separators, and that they break schemes. They create full rotations. There's lots of great players in this league that are going to get 30, but not always going to cause a full rotation. You can kind of play in between. You can rotate if someone gets straight line drive, but if a guy can handle him for 2-3 dribbles, but he's still going to get to the front of the rim, you damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's what their greatness is based on in my eyes.
Yeah, and that shows up extra in the playoffs. And that's when it's at its most valuable, which is why those guys are as valuable as they are, because they can take you over the top.
When did you realize with Jokic, just as an observer, and I'm trying to think if this was when this was probably predating Brooklyn, as an observer, just what exactly the rest of the league was dealing with?
I don't necessarily have a timeline, but I remember like when he was kind of emerging as like maybe he's better than Nurkic. There was that conversation. It was like that was the first time you're like, I didn't watch a lot of him, and like, oh wow, like Nurk is a super skilled, big, young player in the league. You're thinking first round pick. You're thinking this guy's got a great future, and all of a sudden the second round pick is like pushing him out of the team in a sense. So you start to take notice, like what is this? And you know he's gotten his body in a lot better shape, but even at that stage, like you could start to see, oh wow, he's playing 3D chess here. Like it's so easy for him to like just make simple basketball plays that bust defenses, right? Yeah. And then obviously he just kept getting better and better and better to the point now where, I mean, where's this going? This is going to the top of the top, the upper echelon of historic basketball players in my eyes.
Yeah, like he just had the singular most impressive stat line in NBA history.
Yeah, he freaked out. we were together, I think, the day afterwards. Were you
the 61?
Yeah, you were like, it takes me 2 weeks to
get 2 weeks to get 20 rebounds. It takes me 2 weeks to get 20 assists. I'm trying my best out there.
But he's close to that almost every night. Like, what did he average triple-double this year? Super high efficiency. Like
40+%.
Team was hurt a lot. You know, like, so when your team is injured, like Jamal Murray doesn't play a lot, and guys are in and out of the lineup, they maybe didn't have the depth they had their championship year, you can load up on him a lot more. He still was crazy efficient and dominant. Like that to me is, if this guy does this for another 5 years, like we're talking like he's on Mount Rushmore.
This is my question. My question when we were talking about the adjustments is like, when you look at, that's a great series. That's probably going to be the most competitive, best series, I feel like, in the first round, at least based on the first 2 games.
And the Lakers mini, I think.
Like Lakers mini too. But with that particular...
I feel like different series though. Very different.
With their 2-man, with the Jamal Jokic 2-man, like everybody knows what's coming.
Yeah.
And you look at the Clippers have Kawhi, they have Chris Dunn, they have Derek Jones. They have 3 or 4 guys who are, 3 of the 4 best defensive players in the NBA. And they're making every adjustment. They have a great coach, Ty Lue. What are you supposed to do with that 2-man? Yeah.
In my quick opinion, like not probably the most thought out opinion, is they're extra effective when they have that pace that creates that space because they're really, really good at the reads. Murray can take the backdoor cut. He can come off and shoot. He can hit the pocket. Jokic can do basically anything. So the key is to wear him down, especially Murray. Like Dunn, get into him, physical, fight through every handoff, blow up as much as you can, keep everything up the floor, make him have to fight that all game and just wear them down, I think is probably the most effective thing to do. It's just that slow down that like it just make it, it has to be a top effort to get into those actions every time.
Yeah, pick him up full court, make Jokic bring it up, get to his spot, and Jamal's trying to cut off, like all that stuff, trying to wear him down. If you give him something easy and they get momentum, cat's out of the bag. You gotta be on the front foot defensively, because they're gonna create like little micro advantages. That's why that it is so effective. Like you can blow a play up, you can't blow all of them up, right? So like they're gonna find these little micro advantages where they're gonna execute and make plays. So you gotta try to slim the amount of times you can take that off the table or push him out or make Jamal like give up getting the ball and make Jokic have to dribble up the court a million times, get to his spot, back down almost to his elbow, start playing pitch and catch, whatever they do. It sounds like rudimentary, but like, again, it goes to my point, like that's what makes great players great. One, great combos, great. But like after adjustment here, there, and now it's just like, who's going to play the hardest, the smartest, read each other, be the most effective. And part of that is, can we wear them down and make them from an A+ to an A-, right? And that might be the difference.
What are you mentioned Lakers, Minnesota is another one you feel like could go 7. What are the micro advantages in that on either side that you feel like?
Well, I mean, you look at it like the Lakers have to be so disciplined to keep Ant off the rim and what he does when he gets inside. Like, obviously he's impossible to stop when he gets on the rim. Plus now, like, if you're not so tight and trying to make it as hard as possible to get in the rim, and he's getting in those little cracks, then he's spraying the ball too. He's got the best of both worlds. So they're disciplined, getting back, stopping transition opportunities, making them be static, making them kind of look like they're playing against the zone, but then they're flying out at shooters. That's kind of, where we start in that series for me. And then conversely, very similar. They have a great creator in Luka, obviously LeBron as well, and AR, amazing players. But Luka being the head of the snake, like, you got decisions to make. How much support are we giving? Are we going to let him go for 45, but he had to make 3-4 dribbles every time to get to the front of the rim or take a step back, versus we're getting it out of his hands, and then the other guys, are getting wide open shots like they saw in game 1 a little bit. So I think that's where it starts for these two teams. But like, you have to look at the whole picture. So it's turnovers, it's offensive rebounds, it's defensive transition, it's all these little areas, and how much can you win those little battles is going to help. Like, if you don't quite win the big battle, right? Like, there's an equality here in a sense of if there's like how teams exploit each other. I always say, it's about how can we create space and exploit it, and how can we constrict space. That's the game of basketball. In the playoffs, that becomes even more heightened. So that's where you start, is what are we doing to our two lead creators here? But on the flip side of that is always, like I said, defensive transition, boxing out, not giving up offensive rebounds, second possessions, like turnovers, all those things add up and are really important in a 7-game series.
And it seems like the Lakers did that yesterday. I didn't watch game 1 as closely as I should have. And we were in and out of game 2 yesterday. But from a bird's eye view, it seems like that increase in physicality, but doing it effectively, really slowed Minnesota down. And what you see is a lot worse of a shooting day from them, less clean looks, and then a lot more general frustration. It seems like you go from scoring almost 120 to mid 80s, like very good execution on the Lakers' behalf there. And the result is like exactly how the game plan was structured. You can tell.
What do you see with the Thunder when you watch them?
Excellence. They like I was saying to Cam last night, leadership, hierarchy, buy-in. They know who their leader is. It's Shea. The rest of the team has a hierarchy of knowing their roles, but they also have the freedom to be themselves. It's not like they are gun shy or, they don't play hard because they're not the number 1, 2, 3 option. They have multiple athlete defenders. They have 2 bigs that can make plays. One can play the 4 or 5 in Chet. He can stretch the floor. He can protect the rim. He can shrink the floor with his length. Hardenstein can pass. He's got the floater. He's great activity, a little more physical. So their functionality, versatility, optionality are off the charts. There's so many guys that are like, hardworking, diligent, disciplined defenders. I know obviously Dort is an unbelievable role player who makes threes, is happy with his role, gets up into people's physical, but there's a lot of guys lining up after him to take on the best assignment. Think about the ceiling for Jalen Williams is, in my eyes, super high. Like, he might take a step this playoffs, but like in the next 4 or 5 years, the way he can keep going because of the two-way playmaking, scoring creator he can be. It's going to be fun to see how that goes. But also they're well coached, and with the hierarchy and buy-in, they move it, they make quick decisions. They create space for Shea. Shea creates space for them. It puts you in a lot of difficult positions.
Yeah, obviously no Santa Clara bias there. Let's make that clear. Just pure observation.
Santa Clara and Arizona.
Objective.
We got 2.
Objective. Yeah. Objective. But this is just a great team, honestly, what they've been able to accomplish so far in the regular season. But not only that, rolling to the playoffs, Memphis is not a team to be taken lightly. No. They were out just not too long ago, 2 seed in the West. They have the talent. They have defensive pieces, offensive pieces, guys that can shoot the ball, guys that can just flat out make plays. And OKC is just giving them such a hard time.
I wanted to ask about their culture in particular, because you sort of hinted at this a little bit. And it is a thing where they seem to fully embrace, like guys like Case and Wallace, guys like Caruso, the guys off the bench, they seem to fully embrace the next man up mentality where people don't sort of acknowledge even this year, they weren't healthy the entire season. They finished with 68 wins. They finished with the second best net rating of all time. Chet missed, 45 games. They didn't play those two bigs together basically until the end of the season because of all of this. And it basically seemed like besides Shea and Dub to a certain extent, they were just mixing and matching the whole time, but their culture was so strong that they had that ability. Is that a thing that you feel like is an organizational thing? Is it a Shea thing? Like, where does it come from?
All of the above. Having a leader that empowers his teammates, that is like a good teammate, a good dude, wants to see them do well, shares in their success, but also takes on the responsibility. That's the key component. But the culture, like, what is culture? Culture is like, it's a system of behaviors. It's how we behave. To me, like, you can have the best culture ever on paper. It's who do you bring in your building, and they recruit and scout high IQ, hardworking, collaborative players, right? That's why they went out and got Caruso. That's why they drafted Case and Wallace, Wiggins, like these type of players. They understand these guys have worked for everything they got. They will continue to work. They're happy to fit into a system, but they still have the competitive fire. So that's organizational. It's not like, hey man, we created this great culture. No. They filled the room with people that want to fight together, were willing to play with the team, play as a team, to sacrifice for each other, to compete, and then it builds itself, right? Like it's not the word or it's not the thought exercise on the wall. It's not the messages around the gym. It's who do you bring into your building? That's what a culture is. More than anything.
100%.
With Shea in particular, with his change of pace, just the way he plays, and you have some background with him. Obviously, he's from Toronto. So you've known him since
Hamilton. Shout out Hamilton.
You've known him since he was in high school, but just watching how he has turned himself from a lottery pick, but not necessarily somebody that people are going to think is going to be a superstar, into what I think we both think he should be the MVP this year. With how he plays in particular, what have you seen with just his control and his pacing?
I mean, he's an absolute master of his craft, and that comes from hard work. That comes from really intentional, purposeful work. And so I haven't seen Shea work since summer. We had him going before he went to Kentucky with the national team, at which time I knew he would be a pro. I did not know this. That you only get there if you are incredibly thoughtful, dedicated, and intentional about everything you do every day. So one, big admiration for him, not just how he's gotten there, but how he handles himself, frankly. I mean, guys, I think a complete class act, a guy that the league should be putting everywhere, and the Thunder, they should be everywhere. Like, I know it's not a big market, but put the Lakers, put the Knicks, and OKC at every chance we get. Like, this is exactly what we want a basketball team to look like, okay? One. But Shea, getting back to Shea, he's a master of his craft. He's changed to becoming a more balanced, smoother, quicker three-point shooter. He's always been herky-jerky, quick, but not the most explosive, but a phenomenal athlete. Quick, change of pace, change of direction, shifty, skilled, incredible length. So I think people don't recognize how long this guy is, whether that's at the rim or in the mid-range. He also is a master of physicality. Okay, so like his ability to use his body to create a little bit of separation is textbook. Okay, like that to me is a huge separator, and that he finds the body and he wins that battle. And it's not about strength, it's about timing, rhythm, angles. I got this angle on him. So now he goes from being the strongest man on the court to the fifth strongest man because I got him leaning. Now the bump, now he can't recover. And whether it's a spin, step, use that length. I mean, he is a master of footwork, change of pace, change of direction, physicality. Then he can use the incredible efficient. I think this year, something around 58, 60% on like 16 mid-range jump shots a game. Like, we're talking Jordan plus, like, I mean, like, it's a historic type player. I might have butchered those numbers, but elite historically. And he's the leader or thereabouts for drives, successful drives in the league. So, he's worked so hard at his game. He has an incredible mentality, confidence, poise that runs through his team. And you can see it. You can see the way they're connected. And so, man, I admire the guy an incredible amount for where he's taken his game and what he's done. And I just think he's someone that we should all like celebrate and marvel at as what he's been able to do with a kid who was a 4-star recruit, then was a late signing to Kentucky, got himself into the lottery.
Got traded
Never
after
stopped.
a successful rookie year.
Exactly. Got traded, right? Like the emotional standpoint there, how he responded to that. So, I mean, I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on him, but this guy's out of this world.
Yeah, definitely. You can see the strides he's taken every year, and the physicality is twofold. So one, he has the chicken wing, he has the bumps, he has that down pat. But as a defender, you can't use full physicality on him, because just as well as he can feel and deliver, he can feel the physicality and then draw a foul. So as when you're trying to body up, when you're trying to prevent him from doing things, you bump him a little too hard and boom, he's at the line, which some people call foul baiting, and some people might say it's unethical hoops. But I mean, if anybody was as good as him at doing it, you do it. Like it's a skill more than anything.
I don't want to interrupt, but I love how you explain that, because like if you go back and watch the clips, there are some that are in the middle ground. First of all, that's not his fault. Like the grifting stuff, like he's playing the game the way it's played. I think what happens is we have too many guys that are either looking for fouls or don't look enough for fouls. He rides the line like a Harden, this is skill. Like there's a genius to how they're able, like you said, like think about that. You got to be physical, because if he gets the first bump when you're, lifting a foot, he's going to win that battle. Yeah. So then you're being physical. He feels that. Like there is such a cerebral sense and feel for playing against your man that is just like, I'm over here just like saying
it's
how
such a
great
leverage game, man. It's such a leverage game. And guarding him, you get too close, and then like he wants to find your body, but even if he doesn't, like he has wiggle on top of it. So it's very pick your poison with him. And a lot of guys are pretty skilled in the NBA. A lot of guys are very skilled. Like there's a lot of professional scorers, but where he has continued to get better. One, he's a shot maker. So all this goes out the window if he can't make that midi. If his 3 ball has never improved, if he can't finish around the rim, he can make shots from any point on the floor, which is part of the really impressive thing. But the decision making in those situations, which probably goes back to work, which probably goes back to like, here's a guy that has drilled these scenarios, the feel of the game over and over and over, and has just been able to like pretty seamlessly incorporate it into his game to the point where like it's always just building, learning.
It's almost like a 4-level scorer, right? He's gotten himself to where he's above average 3-point shooter, and he'll make big ones. He's gotten and versatile. He can pull up off the dribble now. He can pull up behind. He can catch and shoot, all those things. He's a master, historic master of the mid-range, creating space, separation, length, the bumps, all those things. He's a great driver, right? Using his length, getting to the rim, somehow getting to the backboard where you're either too late or he's too high or whatever it is. And then the fourth dimension, in a sense, is his ability to draw fouls, right? It's amazing to hear him who's played against him talk about like the damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you're physical, he can use that against you. If you're unphysical, he uses that against you. If he can't get to a spot, he draws a foul. If you play off him, he can shoot the 3. If you play him tight, he's in the gaps. Like he's got a counter for almost everything other than let's hit him, right? Let's make someone else beat us. And I think there are some numbers for a lot of the season where they were a lead in pick and roll, where he was able to make the decision. They were like below average, and they're a great team, below average when teams got the ball out of his hands, like, hit him or got it out early. Like that says a lot about how good this dude is.
What do you think when you watch the Pacers?
I think right now you're seeing a really connected group, a seemingly connected, unselfish, committed to winning, committed to their pace, committed to their principles. Not, it's not like a look at me, I'm gonna win the game. It seems like a very team effort, which they've been really good at, which has made them a good team these past, couple seasons. Playoffs is where it's stressed the most. And last year they were able to do it effectively. And so this year, they had that slow start, but they picked it up. They figured it out. And I mean, a lot of it starts with Tyrese's ability to just purely distribute, kick the ball up the floor, and he's like the pace engine. But you have contributions, balance scoring across the board where guys are stepping up, making shots, playing their role. It's right now the way they're playing, the form they're in is like that's their recipe.
Yeah, I mean they're a different look to most teams, right? Like they play quicker, they play freer on offense, they space you out, they try to play draw and kick, get to blender. Tyrese's ability to throw ahead makes teams tough. Like that's why the pace and space era was created, because we realized teams that are retreating or backpedaling are not going to be able to guard, rotate, build their defense, and they exploit that as well as anyone in the league. So I think they give everyone it's a curveball too in that respect. And then like Cam said, I think all these guys are able to like play their role well. Plus, right? Like Andrew Nembhard, like he's accepted. I'm a defender first. I'm going to be our lead kind of point of attack defender. He's shooting a struggle this year, but he still steps up in big moments and makes plays, draws a foul, makes a floater, hits a three, like timely stuff. And then obviously, Tyrese and Pascal and these guys, and they have great versatility too. And like they have a rim protecting center who can stretch the floor. Like that. Those things are so valuable for teams like this, where the center can get out of the paint, run down the floor, either trail, play 5 out, or run to the corner and let those guys play in their little touch and go drags and getting in the gaps while they're not set. So they are just a curveball for a lot of teams. And I just love for the league that we have a team that plays with that pace and that openness.
I was going to say, do you feel like when we were talking before about just how the physicality can wear you down, just you just get gassed dealing with these guys because they're just no matter what they're going. So you could be shooting well, you could be not shooting well. It feels like either way you're in this track meet, and there's no other way to play against them besides that. And so, I mean, I think the Bulls were sort of the only other team that was similar to them this year pace wise. But it's an unavoidable thing for as an opponent of them. And so because of that, and I'm curious your perspective, as a person who's knows this as well as anybody about the mental toll that can have on an opponent knowing that you're dealing with this for 7 games regardless.
Well, I'd love to hear Cam's perspective because he plays against them, but it's a double-edged sword because, they are different. You have to get up and down with them or try to stop them from getting up and down as freely. On the other hand, like when you talk about fatigue, like Mike used to say to us, and maybe this augments your point, Mike D'Antoni used to say like, you're going to be more tired running up and down fast or wrestling with someone all night. And so in a sense, like, that can go both ways, right? Who gets their mitts on you first versus who gets you up and down first.
Well, to that point, the where the pace becomes most effective is when it keeps the other team off guard then, right? Like if it keeps Milwaukee on their heels, then it'll be ultra effective. If Milwaukee gets a handle on it, starts to turn it into a physical battle, that's what can really slow the Pacers down.
Right.
You know what I mean? Really make their engine sputter. And so that's the battle that Milwaukee has right now is how can we get our hands on them? How can we slow them down and then dictate from there? And even if it can still be a high-paced game, but you can tell who's dictating pace. And the Pacers have been successful at dictating so far.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back to our convo on the experience front and just, the sort of wins that come from just living through this. But I want to talk about Detroit in particular. As we're taping this, this will come out. The series is 1-1. I've had an amazing season. Cade we'll get into just an incredible player overall. But it feels like a team like this, even though they do have some veterans, and we'll talk about Dennis and Tobias and some of their contributions, they also feel like a team that's just playing with house money. And I'm curious, like your perspective, both of your perspectives playing against teams like this, where it kind of feels like they have nothing to lose and it's going to be really loud in Detroit on Thursday, but they feel like they have nothing to lose where there isn't they're the opposite of the Spurs. They're coming into the situation and they're like, we're not supposed to be here. And so does that provide a little bit of a mental edge and that no matter what happens, this 6th season is already a massive success for them?
I think it's a success for sure. I think their roster's improved. I think Cade's improved, taking a little step here. It can work both ways. So right now, they maybe don't feel the pressure the Knicks feel because of expectations. But if it gets close at the end of the series,
they're going to feel it.
And we saw it in game 1 already.
They're going to feel that, right?
Yeah.
They're going to feel that. So down the stretch of games or at the business end of a series, they don't have the collective scars. right? And their cycle as a team is earlier, let's say, than the Knicks. They have guys that are like Cade, 3-4 years in the league that are yet to kind of earn their stripes and scars in the playoffs. Now, he's an elite player, so that's one reason why they're so successful. But the key players around them, a lot of them are young guys. Now, they got a couple vets, Tobias Harris, Timmy Hardaway, but like that's a team that's on the ascent. So it is house money in a respect, but like they are talented enough. They have found a way of playing, under Coach Bickerstaff where they can win the series. It's just a matter of like, how hard does New York make it for them, and how do they respond to that?
I think it's house money in the fact that if they lose, they'll be okay. It's not It's not doom and gloom. It's not like, it's like we if you lose, there's still so much positivity around your season that you can continue escalating. But I think there is still pressure in the moment. I think it's still I think as the series progresses, no matter how it progresses, you're going to see how they react to that pressure, and they're going to feel it. They're not just going to be like, we're happy to be here. You know what I mean? But at the same time, Tommy, this is what I told you, like when we did the preview a little bit ago. It's going to come down to like you're going to have to have Cade performing the way Cade does, but then you get contributions like Tobias in the first half. You get contributions like Schroeder making big plays on the stretch. I told you it's going to come down to like who on the roster is going to step up and make these big plays. Yes, Cade's going to do what he does, but you're going to need Beasley to hit timely shots. You're going to need Harris to hit timely shots. Hardaway, and in the case of the other day, it was Schroeder, and it's just going to be on New York to counter that. The campaign in game one comes up huge, sparks a run, boom, New York runs away with it.
We talked about this last time. We talked about it a bunch, I guess, this year because Dennis was Cam's teammate earlier this season. To me, I understand why the Warriors had to trade him because he was a part of the Jimmy deal, but it's a little shocking it was this easy for them to get him, and it's completely unsurprising that he hit that shot the other night, because when I think about Dennis, I think about FIBA. I think about him hitting big shots in massive games over and over again all over the world, and he's done it in the NBA and he's done it globally, and it feels like that's a guy that does have his scars. So like when he's taking that shot the other night, you're like, no shit. Yeah. No shit he's hitting that. Like he's hitting that shot, that same shot in Manila to win a gold medal.
Yeah.
Not afraid. He's been there before.
Not afraid. I just don't think Golden State was a good fit. I just don't think it was a great fit. Trying to just adapt to around the way they play. It's just not, I don't think it was really the way he wanted to play, and how he's been able to, like, he had a great start to the season with us, and he was the engine, emotional point guard. Like, you walk on the court with that guy, you got somebody that got your back no matter what. He gonna bark at a fan. Mm-hmm. He gonna bark at a player. He's gonna be, if something pops off, he's front and center. And as a teammate, that's exactly what you want. Somebody that's always gonna have your back. Mm-hmm. That's always gonna be able to get down and dirty with you. But it in the playoffs right now, like, Detroit has made their identity this season on barking, on playing hard, on being physical, not afraid to fight, literally and figuratively. And he just fits really well with what they're doing, and he was a great piece for them.
Yeah, it's a good fit. I mean, Golden State, he's more of a ball screen guard. Like, get me in the pick and roll, let me get in the gaps and make plays. How many ball screen opportunities are you going to get in Golden State? Like, they're not a heavy ball screen team. When they do run them, it's a lot of stuff. They're more of a pinch post, cut off the ball, splits, all that stuff, read and react. So that's an adjustment for a guy that's used to, like, being the head of the snake, so to speak, when they're on the floor. Now, of course, he's going to do that some in Detroit, but he's also going to have to play off Cade at times. But I think that's less of an adjustment than just the way the Warriors play, which is amazing and beautiful and unique to our league in many respects, but an adjustment for a lot of people. Jimmy's a great fit, so to speak, compared to Dennis in that way. Obviously, they're different caliber players and different careers, but that often is the case. Like, what is the fit? Like, how does someone fit into what you do? And Dennis can be a little polarizing, but that's what also makes him great. Like you said, like he's got, like, he's aggro, and that's what makes him great too, is like he's competitive. Like he's not going to back down. He's not afraid. So you can't ask for both, right? You got to take it all. And I think you see that with a lot of guys. Often our biggest strengths are also our weaknesses. Yeah. It's how you manage them, how you make sure that you balance that in a positive direction.
Right. What's your read on this Golden State Houston series?
It's going to be a great series. I mean, you obviously, fascinating series. Houston's had an amazing year, and they have a really unique team with a bunch of really competitive, athletic dudes. Ime's personality is physicality, combat, all those things that I think they've taken on, which is great. On the flip side, Golden State just has so much experience. Been there so many times. There was that regular season game where Curry struggled late in the season, and everyone thought, oh, maybe Houston can take him out of it. This dude, it's just how many moments has he put together where he's just made the Paris stuff, the semifinal, final, and what's amazing about Steph is same guy every day. Doesn't matter if he's on a heater averaging 40 for a month or he's struggling, legs are gone, and he's averaging 20. He's comes in every day happy, excited to be there, loves the environment, loves his job. You don't know what a gift that is for a team and an organization when your star player is just elated to play basketball for a living and can't wait, a kid can't wait to get to the gym and work every day and play and be damned the results. And so for me, one, that's what makes him unique. And then two, all these moments, this, you've seen him make the 40-footer against OKC, was it, in the playoffs? You've seen him make these shots in the semis and the finals of the Olympics. These are crazy shots and moments, and he rises to them. And it's almost you can feel it. You can feel it coming. You're he's making that. When it's I could try that 10 times in an empty gym and make one. He does it in the biggest moments. It's insane. Insane.
He's done it to me.
But I'm saying, has he done it to you where you're what the fuck just happened?
Yes. We played them in Brooklyn 2 months ago, and it's halftime. 2 months ago. It's halftime. It's 2 seconds left in the half. Jimmy Butler's bringing it up. Him and Curry cross paths. We switch whoever was guarding him. So now I'm guarding Curry. He flips it back to Curry. I think we can pull the clip. But Curry gets it with his back to the basket, and I am a foot away from him. But he's at half court line, off towards the scores table. So he's not even centered. And I'm standing in front of him a foot, and it's one moment where I
remember this.
Yes. One moment where I'm I'm not close enough. Maybe I should take a foul. If we get close, you're going to foul him. Right. So I just stand there with my hands up. And, with anybody else in the league, it's right. Okay, yeah, we're fine. But in my head, I'm oh my God, that's not good enough. And he turns around and chucks it over his head. And as soon as it left his hand, I was dang.
It's insane. Cash. Honestly, he's a savant.
Mm-hmm. The one other team sort of similar to the Thunder that I wanted to just get your thoughts on briefly is the Cavs. Another incredible season. They still feel like they're somehow under the radar, even after a year like this. It doesn't feel, and maybe that's because it may not be a super competitive first round series. But just what Kenny has done there, what they've built overall with another really deep kind of veteran group.
Kenny's done a great job. Made some tweaks to them offensively, I think, as much as anything. That's made them, I think, more unpredictable. Some of the spacing, cutting, quick hitting actions. But I think why we don't talk about them as much is because they got a lot of unassuming players, terrific players. Even Donovan being, their star. Maybe it's partly that it's not a huge market, but made sacrifices this year for the betterment of the team. You look at the rest of their starting, unassuming guys, right? Their two bigs are super unassuming, right? That's I think why they don't maybe get the attention is that they don't have this kind of, outgoing personality as a team. But man, what a versatile group, right? They got guards that can make a lot of plays. They got shooting. They got versatile defenders. They got the two bigs that they can play together. They can play with one on the floor. I think it's going to be fascinating to see the growth they make this year during the playoffs, because I think there's no question that they should be a conference finals team. And then how much, resistance can they give the Celtics? They've done it during the regular season, but now in the playoffs, Celtics fully healthy. It could be a 7-game series. I still give Boston the edge because of obviously their roster, but their experience, collective experience. But Cleveland's capable, man. It's going to be a fun journey here.
Yeah. 2 smaller guards, 2 bigs is not the most common formula, and the NBA is very formula-based. Not the most common formula, and not only have they done it, but they've done it exceptionally well. and they figured out ways to make that like their ultimate weapon. And then on top of that, man, shout out Ty Jerome.
I was going to say.
Shout out Ty Jerome.
Yeah, he's been great. And Garland, man, what a player, man. Like, he's like, he's the second fiddle in a sense to Donovan. But like having these two guys that can make plays, that can play off each other, take turns, accept one another, like is super valuable. And Ty giving them that lift off the bench is huge. And then adding guys like Max Strus and Hunter, like gives them versatility on the perimeter where you need bodies to defend, can still space the floor. Like those were big upgrades, I think, for them. And it's gonna be exciting, man. Like I just like the way they try to play for each other. And that to me is always, it shows a level of IQ. So it'll be fun to see how they do in their first kind of big year with Kenny.
Is there a specific mental matchup in the next couple of weeks you guys are particularly excited to see?
So for me, I just love this Lakers Minnesota back and forth, and this Clippers Nuggets. Like those two are like, we're lucky, man. 2 first-round series with like, pretty elite teams, right? A lot of them are kind of different. I mean, Minnesota made a trade, Lakers made a trade. Obviously there's been a lot of turmoil and change in Denver. So I think you got a bit of everything. And also Ty Lue and that coaching staff, they've weathered a lot of stuff this year, a lot of injuries, kept that team on track, playing well without Kawhi. Zubac having an incredible season. James Harden now playing his best basketball in a few years, I think. And then Kawhi Leonard is like Kawhi Leonard again right now. So like they can beat anyone at any time because of the way their talent is playing and the balance they found. They're defending. Like they've been an excellent net rating team here to close the season. So man, it is a gift for us to get to watch these 2 series in the first round.
Agreed.
I think we'll close with this just because this is a topic we've all sort of talked about independently, and it's a very broad sort of question, but I think you guys both have unique perspectives on this. What do you think makes a good leader, or a great leader, I should say?
So I always say the number one thing in leadership is to be authentic, be yourself. Like don't read out of a leadership book. Don't think I watched a high school football movie. Like if you're a quiet leader, lead quietly. Like your teammates need to believe in your motives and that you care about the group. It doesn't matter if you're like, the loud leader or the quiet leader. If they don't believe that you want the group to do well and you're willing to help sacrifice for the team, you're not a leader. They're not going to follow you. So I think that's where it starts, and then it's like just watching your habits, right? Like what are your habits? Because your habits are really who you are. Whether you voice them or you don't, it's like, what are your behaviors you're doing every day? And if your teammates see that over and over, they believe in you, they'll follow you, they'll run through a wall for you because they know that you care. And that's the number one thing. I think all of us being human beings, we want belief, we want support, we want hope, we want a chance to get better. We want to be seen and valued. And a leader that cares about the group, that comes off. It comes off intrinsically. Guys buy in. They want to play for. It's a big word to say for him, but they want to follow and fill the gaps for their leader who has the most responsibility. I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, I completely agree. Guys sniff out the BS, the fake stuff, the act. It's easily sniffed out for sure. And then the other element to it is, again, piggybacking off what you said, is just like, be who you say you are. If you're the worker, the quiet, the lead by example type, then show that day in and day out and be that example that I feel like that's what guys respond to is like, okay, I've seen him for 2 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. And he's been the same person. He's been the same worker. He's been the same steady presence, whatever it may be, voice, whatever it may be. But like be that person consistently.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Don't swing. Don't, you know what I mean? And I think those guys that I've played with that have exhibited those tendencies have been easy to rally around. And like just as I'm getting older in my career and transitioning from younger guy to more veteran presence, like you see the impact that your own emotional mental state has on the rest of the group. So like being cognizant of that.
I think another part of this, and you're kind of leading toward it or right around it, is being able to take the heat for your team when you need to. Like take some, you can still drive your teammates, but you can also take a lot of the risk off the table for your teammates by making them feel okay to fail. Making them feel like I can miss a shot, I can make a turnover. He's not going to turn his back on me because I made a mistake. Like being able to, after a tough playoff loss, take the blame, not point fingers, not look around like, well, they didn't, do shit. Even if that's true, be like, man, I can play better. It starts with me, right? Like I missed a couple assignments, whatever it is. I think that allows the players to feel like, like he's got our back. Like he has the responsibility. He might get the moonlight, so to speak, the spotlight, but being able to say like, but he'll also take the heat and is willing to put himself out there or be vulnerable with his teammates and be like, yeah, I screwed that up. I can do better. Like, I think that's a big component of leadership because there's a lot of pressure, a lot of noise, a lot of talk. The last thing you want is guys to feel like the minute it goes bad,
turn on them.
It's on us, so to speak.
It's very well said. Mr. Steve Nash.
Appreciate it.
We will be watching these games and talk to you soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.